All right, so it's 5 p.m., so we're about to get started. Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope you've been enjoying this show so far. So before we kick it off, let me briefly introduce myself. So my name is Tytus Kurek. I'm based in Poland and I'm a product manager for OpenStack at Canonical. I know it's a little bit late and I'm literally standing between you and the closing celebration taking place in a plenary that I promise I'll be brief. So I'm really glad to see all of you coming to my session. Wanted to thank you for joining. I believe you're curious why 47% of all OpenStack deployments run on Ubuntu. So in this very short session, I'll try to share my own perspective on that, like Canonical's perspective, where is this phenomenon coming from, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into what Ubuntu is and who we are as a company, what do we do. So first of all, where is this data coming from, right? Like you might be curious, how do we know? So that 47% of all OpenStack installations run on Ubuntu. So there is an annual event organized by the OpenInfra Foundation that's called the OpenStack User Survey, where the community basically tries to capture information from various community members about all the OpenStack installations running out there across all the community members. So if your company is using OpenStack, no matter whether it's a production cloud or you're just using it for POC purposes or for testing or development, you should definitely participate in an event like that, by the way, because this is first of all, a good opportunity for the entire community to capture some various interesting statistics about the OpenStack usage across various types of organizations and market segments and regions and so on. Plus, this opportunity for you to actually influence the decisions that are taken by the community in response to that, right? So the 2024 iteration of the survey has just finished, right? It was due to August 28th. That if you haven't participated in this one, you can definitely participate in the next year's one. So by taking a look into the statistics from the previous year's iteration of the survey, so the one running in 2023, there is a question out there about, well, there are a lot of questions. But one of the questions is about the operating system that's actually powering this particular OpenStack deployment, right? So taking a look at the data from 2023, it has been reported that 47% of all OpenStack installations all over the world are running on top of Ubuntu Server. And we're very proud of that, obviously. And if you take a look at the historical data, so if you compare those results with the data from previous years, you will only see that the penetration of Ubuntu has been constantly growing there. So more and more OpenStack clouds rely on Ubuntu as the base operating system for running it. And those are not the only reports that are showing up this trend. So just to show you something else, right? There's a number of different reports. Let's take the OpenLogic's report about the state of open source from 2023, where you'll find exactly the same trend being reflected, right? Ubuntu these days becomes a #1 Linux distribution. And this is also true for the infrastructure space. So historically, Ubuntu has been one of the most popular Linux distributions on desktops, but it's no longer just desktops. It's desktops. It's the most popular operating system used in public clouds to run workloads. It's the most popular operating system to run containers on top of Kubernetes, Docker. And these days, it's also the most popular operating system in the infrastructure space. So we're seeing this trend happening everywhere. So just a few words where this is coming from, and let me focus on Ubuntu first and talk a little bit more about Canonical and the value we bring on top of Ubuntu as a company. So this is one of the very unique operating systems that you can get running across the entire spectrum of compute, right? So you can get it up and running on your desktop, you can get it up and running in a public cloud, you can get it up and running in your data center and on the edge. And it's the same Ubuntu regardless of where you run it. It's the same bits, it's exactly the same operating system, and it delivers the same experience everywhere. It supports all the major architectures, including the traditional x86 architecture, but it also works on ARM, it works on IBM Power, S390X, and some more cutting-edge architectures like RISC-V, for example. It works across the majority of the hardware platforms that are available out there. There is an Ubuntu certification program that most of the leading hardware vendors participate in, basically make sure that their hardware is fully supported by Ubuntu. So there's like a big lab running out there where all of those servers constantly are tested against like the latest version of the Ubuntu operating system and the kernel that it uses. It's highly scalable to meet growing business needs and highly secure with proactive updates, including firewall and advanced encryption. So the stability comes from a very predictable release cadence that Ubuntu uses. So as most of you probably know, if you're using it, Ubuntu gets released every 6 months, but every 2 years it gets released in a so-called long-term support release, meaning that for those versions are covered with 5-year security maintenance by free for everyone, for the entire community, right? In between of those LTS releases, there are interim releases that are coming every 6 months that provide the latest toolchains and advanced features which are covered for 9 months of support. And those are to basically make organizations be able to benefit from all the good things that are happening in the Linux space. Every new features that are coming, as well as to be able to support the latest hardware platforms that are available, because hardware continues to evolve all the time. So if we were only about to release Ubuntu every 2 years, we would be behind of what's happening in the market. This is why it is coming in with a 6-month release cadence, while those LTS releases that come like every 2 years are supported by the entire Ubuntu community for free for up to 5 years. So that's it about Ubuntu. Let me now tell you a little bit more about Canonical, who we are, and what is the value that we bring on top of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is a Linux distribution. It's an open source operating system, right? And we are actually the publishers of Ubuntu, and we're the maintainers of Ubuntu. We're the company behind Ubuntu. Not everyone knows that, and sometimes we see people being surprised. So that there's like actually a company that runs Ubuntu, but this is how it works, right? So we provide a free of charge operating system that can be used by anyone. It's fully open source, but we provide a set of commercial services on top of it that are available for like big enterprise customers. So what does it mean we're publishers and maintainers of Ubuntu? It means we actually invest in it. We have a strategy behind it. We talk to the market, we talk to the community, we talk to partners, like hardware manufacturers, silicon manufacturers. We talk to customers we have to understand the market trends and distill them into a roadmap that we then use to bring new features to Ubuntu, and we provide engineering resources to actually drive its development, right? So we are not a non-profit type of an organization. We're a commercial organization that delivers a free open source operating system that then can further be extended with like an optional commercial subscription that provides like an extended security maintenance and like a whole range of commercial services that are available for like big enterprise customers. We're relatively big compared to like various types of players on the open source market. So we're more than 1,000 employees these days, coming from like 85 plus nationalities and 80 plus countries. We're remote first type of a company. So we hire people in various parts of the world. Most of them work from home. And we also have like local hubs in some parts of the world to help us drive business where it makes sense. So we're present like in all the major regions of the world, including North America, Europe, as well as the Asia-Pacific region. We currently do not have an office in Korea, but we have offices in China, Taiwan, and Japan. And customers can always count on us to deliver their reliable support that they need to innovate with confidence. Our mission has always been, is, and will continue to be to amplify open source by making it secure, reliable, and available to all at scale. When we first brought Ubuntu to the world, which was like 20 years ago, and for those of you who know, like Ubuntu derives from Debian, so at that point the idea we had was to make Debian consumable by human beings and make it available in a form so that everyone could start using Linux relatively easily. And at that point, Debian was this kind of a channel that was bringing like all the goodness of open source to the world. And over years, open source has evolved and it's way beyond Linux these days, right? Open source is in projects like OpenStack, is in projects like Ceph, is in projects like Kubernetes, Kubeflow, and there's way more open source goodness that's available these days, which is way beyond like officially hosted projects, right? Like there are GitHub repositories with open source code, like all the way around, right? And with the latest commitment by Canonical, we actually want to continue on the mission that we had like even 20 years ago in this new and very quickly evolving world. And a few weeks ago, we said like we will actually deliver LTS to everything open source. That's not even hosted inside of the Ubuntu archive, not available as Ubuntu packages. So the company's mission continues to be to make open source securable, reliable, and easily available to everyone at any scale. Community is in our DNA. We've been involved in various open source communities for years. Regarding OpenStack, for example, we've been involved in the OpenStack development since the very early beginning of the project. We joined the foundation during one of the initial releases of OpenStack, and over years we have been highly contributing to it. And actually, we're like the third biggest contributor to OpenStack all the time, across all the releases, all the versions that have been available. If you take into account like the number of commits, obviously there are various ways to measure it. That we're one of the biggest contributors to OpenStack, and we continue investing heavily in OpenStack. We work with global partners covering like the entire stack, starting from leading silicon manufacturers like Intel, AMD, ARM, but also companies like NVIDIA, MediaTek, or Qualcomm, the leading hardware vendors, as I said, just to make sure that all the leading hardware is tested, validated, and certified on Ubuntu, so that you can trust on it, so that this combination of this particular hardware with Ubuntu is going to work with no friction when you put it in your data center. But we also work with companies that add value, like on top of that, like global system integrators, for example, and leading public clouds, again, to make sure that the Ubuntu images that you use in public clouds run with no friction, and they're optimized for these particular public cloud vendors' use. We have customers in every region and industry, and if I haven't been clear with that yet, the way we make business is by providing extended and expanded security maintenance for the free and open source operating system that we make available for everyone in a community, and a whole gamut of commercial services, including consulting, training, support, managed services, whatever our customers need to run production-grade environments, big environments, on top of Ubuntu. And we have customers coming from like various sectors and industries, like telecommunication service providers, government institutions, banks, big banks, university and research institutions. We're present in various regions, and we have customers across, some small players, some medium-scale players, as well as well-established players like British Telecom, for example. All of them use Ubuntu with confidence. And now, leading a little bit to the closing remarks of my session, we also have like our own product, Canonical OpenStack, that is obviously based on Ubuntu, and that follows our opinionated design in the way how companies should run OpenStack. So what makes Canonical OpenStack unique is, first of all, the LTS security and support commitment, which is very closely related to the Ubuntu LTS security and support commitment, with 5 years of full commercial support and 10 years of security updates that will eventually get in line with the latest promises of Ubuntu Pro, which includes like up to 12 years of security maintenance and commercial support. We provide the automation framework that enables organizations to easily deploy and operate OpenStack, not just including the initial delivery phase, but also the whole life cycle when it comes to daily operations post-deployment. Like, how do I upgrade my cloud? How do I scale it out? How do I renew TLS certificates? Any kind of activities like that can be fully automated with the automation framework that we provide. And last but not least, we provide an opinionated and fully cloud-native architecture for OpenStack that's based on the OCI images and snaps. So, talking a little bit more about that, a year ago, during the OpenInfra Summit Vancouver, we introduced the entire community to Project Sunbeam, which is now serving as a foundation for Canonical's next generation of Canonical OpenStack product. This is a project that we were working on initially internally, but then we contributed everything upstream. It has now been graduated to like an officially hosted project under the OpenStack tree, under the governance of the OpenInfra Foundation, and it uses a fully cloud-native architecture for deploying OpenStack underneath that's based on OCI images and snaps. The way we make a distinction is that the entire control plane of OpenStack we put on top of Kubernetes using OCI images to let Kubernetes manage various parts of the underlying. Well, OpenStack is a software, right? So we put it on top of Kubernetes to use like its native features to drive HA, to drive upgrades, to drive things like that, while the data plane side, we run inside of snaps so that the compute nodes can be plugged into the control plane as a kind of appliances. That's the approach we take. And there's obviously like a third group of services that we use, which we call so-called management and government type of services that rely on the Juju, which is a technology that Canonical is investing in development, that basically orchestrates the whole thing. If this is something you wanted to give a try, then you can scan this QR code, and this will lead you to the documentation for the Sunbeam project with just 5 commands. If you only have like a spare machine in your lab that you can use for those purposes, you can spin up a fully functional OpenStack cluster on top of Ubuntu using the project Sunbeam. So I would encourage you to give it a try.